What is up, everybody? It is May 21st, 2026, and today we're covering all the news from the Iran war that may or may not be continuing. It's probably going to continue, right? And then we're also going to continue. We're also going to cover the entire Israel war, everything happening in Lebanon. We're going to be covering the maritime traffic, the OSINT analysis, and everything that I'm going to run you through when it comes to the breaking news. And then we're also going to analyze the X algorithm as well as the markets and everything that's going on in our world today. Lots of big news. It was a huge day today, so we're going to look at all of it. So let's break right in and be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. You want to work with me in any of my business ventures, Gold Shark Media AI. You want to work with me as your real estate agent? Again, click the links in the description below. So let's get right into the analysis. So again, we're looking at some big news today. Iran says no deal reached yet with the U.S. as Trump keeps military options on hold. What to know? President Donald Trump has halted U.S. military action against Iran as it reviews the latest peace proposal from the U.S. Thursday. Vice President J.D. Vance warns that the U.S. remains locked and loaded for further military action should Iran reject the deal. A new Fox News poll shows that 60% of American voters oppose further military action in Iran, and I'm part of that 60%. I think we need to end that Iran war. It's not a military strategy that's going to win for the United States, in my opinion, from what I've been looking at, and we're going to see that as we analyze a lot of the markets and as we analyze a lot of the maritime traffic and everything that's actually going on and the patterns and the stories that it tells us. The UAE said Iran's attempts to control the Strait of Hormuz or infringe on the UAE's maritime sovereignty were unrealistic. Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir has been involved in the mediation efforts between Iran and the United States, Iranian state media reported. No deal had been reached with the U.S. as of Thursday, a senior Iranian source said, while claiming gaps had narrowed. So again, when we look at this whole story, that's just one of them. Right? No Iran, U.S. deal reached yet, gaps narrow in Trump nuclear negotiations. And we see that happening. At the same time, Donald Trump has also made a statement today regarding all of the policies over here on U.S. soil. So let's take a listen to this clip.
The DNC released a report this morning, their report on the last election on why you won and Democrats lost. One thing that it mentions is how they failed to reach Middle America, Southern Americans. Do you think they've learned lessons from that election, and have you seen that report?
I think the elections are so rigged, and we have to do something about it, and we're going to do something about it.
But look at this guy's belly button. That's quite the belly button. He's definitely got an Audi belly button.
Cannot continue to have, and frankly, the Senate and the House, they ought to get together and they ought to pass the Save America Act so that you have voter ID, and it's so important you have proof of citizenship.
Very important.
Little thing like proof of citizenship, and also mail-in voting, which is so crooked. So in Maryland, as you probably saw, they had 500,000 mail-in votes that were corrupt. They were corrupt. They said the printer made a mistake. Don't believe that. And they got caught with 500,000 mail-in ballots that were corrupt. We've got to stop it. We have a country that has a very corrupt. We have more corrupt elections than third world countries have. And we ought to
we also did just have AIPAC who spent $16.3 million for Ed Galrain to win against Thomas Massie. That's kind of, that's something to include in that, all of that too, Trump. But at the end of the day, I like what Trump is saying here.
Smart, pass the Save America Act. That'll be a long way. You have voter ID, voter identification. The Democrats don't want to pass. Now, I'll tell you what, the Democrat voters do want to pass, 87%. But the Democrat politicians don't want to pass. And the reason is they'd never be elected again. Because with their policy of open borders, transgender for everyone, I call it transgender mutilization of your children for everybody, men playing in women's sports, all of.
Real quick on the transgender subject, it is important to note that Donald Trump said that, yes, transgender surgeries and all of that is bad, but at the same time, he also said it would be acceptable with parental consent. And that happened not too long ago where he said, we can do that with parental consent only. And then he made a Truth Social post on it, and then he deleted that post. So that's something also that we need to take note of.
The stuff that they do, high taxes, they want a tax hike. They voted in favor of high taxes. They voted against a tax cut.
Okay. And when Trump's talking about tax cuts, he's also talking about tax cuts for the rich, for Wall Street, and for the billionaire class. Now, whatever your thoughts on that, listen, I understand the billionaire argument as to why they shouldn't have to pay taxes. That makes sense. But at the same time, this is not a tax cut for the middle class, in my opinion. And again, have you received the $5,000 checks from your taxes yet from the Trump administration? I don't know. Have you? I don't think anybody's seen those yet. So I think those tax cuts are really only for Wall Street. And that's something also important to note here.
They voted in favor of men playing in women's sports.
Yeah, that's just insanity.
I don't know what these people are thinking. The only way they can win is to cheat, and that's what they want to do. And we ought to pass the Save America Act. Yeah, please.
Yes.
And that also, the Save America Act also impacts a lot of what you'll see with that Clarity Act, by the way, because the Senate House floor, essentially, that kind of matters, right? So what a lot of people don't understand is that the Senate, basically, they have a timing for all of these different things. The Save America Act and the Clarity Act, basically those two things are competing for the Senate floor right now. And so if one gets passed before the other has to wait until like 2027. That's the big rumor, at least. So we know that Donald Trump is pro-crypto, and he wants that signed into action, but also which is going to dominate the House or the Senate floor first? Is it going to be the Save America Act or the Clarity Act? So both of these things are going to be competing, and it sounds like Trump wants that Save America Act signed before anything. So we can also expect that will probably have some kind of impact on when you will see the Clarity Act being passed. It might push that Clarity Act down the line a little bit more into August, I would say, and I think Trump had made a statement about that as well. So on to the next story. We also have Chud the Builder that I wanted to talk about. Chud the Builder, Tennessee shooting case, it's heading to a grand jury, bond slightly lowered. So, very big news today. Nashville, Tennessee, the attempted murder case against Tennessee live streamer Dalton Earthley, known online as Chud the Builder, has now been bound over to the grand jury following a court hearing on Wednesday in Montgomery County. According to court officials, Earthley's case was moved out of the General Sessions Court and will now proceed in Circuit Court. The previously scheduled May 26th hearing has been canceled. Earthley's bond was also lowered from $1.25 million to $1 million, according to updated court information on Wednesday. The 28-year-old faces multiple felony charges, including attempted murder, after investigations said he shot another man during a confrontation outside the Montgomery County Courthouse on May 13th. So this is what the media is always going to report wrongly. Okay, so what we have to understand is that, listen, at the end of the day, according to this story, to my understanding, and we're going to cover some other clips on it in a few minutes when we get into the X algorithm here. But when you look at this entire story, Chud the Builder was outside of a courthouse, and according to what statements say, we got to wait until we see the body cam footage. I'm sure that will be really soon. Hopefully it will be, because allegedly it's being said that exonerates Chud the Builder, and that the shooter who had shot at Chud the Builder first, which was reported to happen, essentially Chud the Builder was acting in self-defense in this specific case. Okay, and so now the question is, were the actions of Chud the Builder, did they lead up to this event? And is it okay that somebody can just come up to you while you're at a courthouse on court property, try to kill you, and then you can no longer defend yourself, even though we do have the right to keep and bear arms in the United States of America? Is it really okay that just because of one word, he had said the word nigger, that is the word that you are not allowed to say, but we are going to say that on this show because we believe in freedom of speech. And we also believe that it's important to say those words because in the context of what we're talking about, this is what it really is about. It is a word. And you have African Americans who use this words they use the same word towards one another in rap music. They call each other nigga or, the same context. So ultimately, we have to understand that it is a word. Okay, so as much as it might offend you and it lashes to you at the ears, you don't like to hear it. It sounds terrible, but it's a word. Okay, it's also, the other words are just as bad. Fuck, cunt. All of these words are bad words that eat at you like a knife when you hear them. But does that give a human the right to kill somebody for saying the word? And especially in the context of trying to prove a point. That freedom of speech, saying something, even if it's so outlandish, even if it's totally uncalled for, to just go up and you say these words to black people, whatever. Listen, at the end of the day, that's the point he's making, is that if you say this word, it means death. So is that really okay? What this court case, in my opinion, really tells us is whether or not you can be murdered in the streets if you say the word nigger. And listen, again, in the context of freedom of speech, I'm not afraid to say that word because this is the true battle here. We have to all be able to have freedom of speech because bad speech can be countered by better speech. And incorrect speech can be countered by correct speech. So in the context of this story, we are going to say the word nigger. And we have to understand that when we're talking about this word, we have to be able to understand that this entire agenda that the United States government and this woke leftist kind of government we have, these, you can call them Democrats, you can call them Zionists, you can call them all, whatever you want. Ultimately, this is tyranny. To say that you can't say this word or it means justified death and homicide. Unacceptable in the United States of America. We do have the freedom of speech. And if somebody is going to say that, you should always have the public discord to be able to correct that person's incorrect speech. And you also should have that public discourse to have the right to have an analysis on that, have a conversation on that. The people should be able to decide. And ultimately, what we're seeing is a big backing of Chud the Builder, as well as African Americans even, has backed Chud the Builder for this entire argument, because ultimately, that's what this is about. It is saying that if you say one word, you can be killed in the streets. And ultimately, the precedent of this entire court case is going to decide that in the future for this country. Saying one word leads to a justified homicide. So this actually reminds me a lot of the Kyle Rittenhouse case, where it was a self-defense case. The verdict in the end was self-defense. And Kyle Rittenhouse was carrying an AR-15 through the streets of, what was it again? It was Minnesota, I believe it was Minnesota, if I'm correct. And what had happened was he was there defending, and his argument was defending his city from this entire Antifa violent takeover of his community. And so he, in his words, was defending this. And so what happened was this other man with a gun who was armed came up to him and tried to assault him with a skateboard and had tried to, again, kill him. And he had said it. And so Kyle Rittenhouse, while he was on the ground, fired the AR-15 and struck the man in the arm. And at that point, it was proof of self-defense. Because ultimately, if you watch the video footage for that same Kyle Rittenhouse case, again, when we look at the grand jury and everything that had happened, this was an argument of whether or not you will be able to, again, defend yourself and use your Second Amendment to defend yourself and your community. By the way, Kyle Rittenhouse was also, he was trying to be a police officer. He was an explorer in some kind of explorers program. There was also documentation of him literally cleaning up spray paint that was on the walls from these Antifa groups and these violent radicals. So ultimately, this Chud the Builder case reminds me a lot of that. So as a society, as Americans, we have to make the decision. Should you be allowed to say a word? And in the context of trying to prove freedom of speech, that is what Chud the Builder's live stream is actually all about. It is proving the point that if you say one word, it creates this form of hostility. If you don't know any background on Chud the Builder, he was a contractor, and he was building houses, and essentially he had a white-only business or something in his bio, something to that extent. And so then he had began to get shut down in his business and all of this stuff. He was attacked. So ultimately, yes, is it okay that for you to just go walk up to people and say that? Well, maybe not. Maybe it's not okay. Maybe it's not nice. But should it be lawful for you to say a word in the context that you are trying to prove a point of freedom of speech? Okay, he has a live stream. He's publicly out here doing this. That is specifically the purpose of the live stream, was to prove this point that one word can lead to homicide. And so is it going to be acceptable? And so that's ultimately what we're going to see in this entire case. So me, personally, I do defend Chud the Builder. I take his side, not because I am a racist. I have love for all Americans, but also, again, there are judges throughout history who have said the same thing. The counter and the remedy for less speech is more speech. For controlled and suppressed speech is more speech. We must always have the right to speak freely and to have our opinions, our ideas expressed, and especially in the context of freedom of speech, proving a point in that context. So that's kind of my feelings on the matter. So going on, authorities previously said that the shooting happened in broad daylight outside the courthouse complex after an altercation between two men escalated into gunfire. Both Earthly and the other men suffered gunshot wounds. The case has drawn widespread attention due to Earthly's controversial online presence known as Chud the Builder. Earthly built a following through confrontational live streams filmed across Tennessee, including Nashville and Clarksville. Before the courthouse shooting, Earthly had also recently been arrested in Nashville after police said he refused to pay more than a $370 bill at a steakhouse following a disturbance inside the restaurant. See, to me, this entire paragraph is really trying to frame the argument of the grand jury before the grand jury is even selected. So voir dire, to speak the truth. And is this really speaking the truth? we have to be able to decipher when somebody is trying to, do an art form, which is to speak publicly in the streets, which you're allowed to do, but you should not be killed because you say a certain word, especially in the context of freedom of speech. And that is the point of the live stream, to prove a point. Okay, so ultimately, if the roles were reversed, I would feel the exact same. Okay, I am a true believer in the freedom of speech. I don't believe that people should be suppressed for any ideas or even a word. Okay, especially when that person does not have intent to kill you, when that person does not have intent to harm you. He said that, when you look at Chud the Builder, the story, again, he was at a courthouse and this man basically approached him and tried to kill him and said, I am going to kill you and your child. This was already said. And this person had DM'd him on social media. And apparently, according to the video footage that was released in this courthouse, again, we're going to watch a clip of one of the people in the jury. I don't know what he was, but apparently he was somebody in the jury. He had said this was clear self-defense, and he looked to be an Asian American. So, what do you think? Are you on the side of Chud the Builder, or are you against Chud the Builder for this entire real tragedy, really, between blacks, whites? It's creating a civil war, ultimately, and it's not good. And I think this actually should unify Americans, really, for the freedom of speech, okay? Black people should have the right to call a white person a cracker, especially if it's not in the context or the intent to murder them or kill them. If it's a freedom of speech thing, listen, it's not okay. I wouldn't like it. I would find it to be extremely annoying, but you have that right, that freedom of speech. And I respect that right. I think every American should have that, because ultimately, at a deeper level, they're trying to destroy your freedom of speech. That's what this really is. Add a whole nother layer of this. So that's kind of my opinions on the matter. We're going to look more deeply into a couple of clips of that in a few minutes, probably in about 20 minutes. U.S. used more missile interceptors defending Israel than its own force did. So that's very interesting. Explosions from projectile interceptions by Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system are pictured over Tel Aviv, Israel on February 28th, 2026. So this is from a while back, but this article was released today. The U.S. military used more of its advanced missile defense interceptor to defend Israel from the Iranian attacks, and its allies spent defending its own homeland, according to the report by the Washington Post published on Thursday. The heavy burden the U.S. endured to defend Israel has caused the shortage of interceptors that the Middle East Eye and the other outlets reported on previously. The U.S. Gulf allies were brushed off when they requested interceptor refills. Me reported during the height of the war, the MEE, and Israel did send Iron Dome batteries and personnel to defend its close Arab partner, the UAE. The U.S. launched more than 200 terminal high-altitude area defense, THAAD, interceptors in defense of Israel, roughly half of the Pentagon's total inventory, the Washington Post reported. The U.S. also fired more than 100 Standard Missile 3 and Standard Missile 6 interceptors from vessels in the eastern Mediterranean. Israel fired fewer than 100 Arrow interceptors and around 90 David Slings interceptors. The latter was also used to shoot down projectiles fired from the Houthis in Yemen and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Both groups generally have fewer advanced missiles and drones than Iran. So the lopsided dynamic. The Washington Post said that the numbers reflect a lopsided dynamic in the military relationship between the two countries. Stunning. Trita Parsi, the executive vice president at the Quincy Institute, wrote on X, "Very understandable that many view the Iran war as Israel first when you see these statistics," he added. The U.S. depleted far more of its advanced missile defense interceptors inventory to defend Israel than Israel itself did. The U.S. and Iran are currently discussing a proposal to end the war amid a shaky ceasefire. President Donald Trump has threatened to resume attacking Iran if it doesn't agree to end the Iran war. But the 200 THAAD interceptors left, the U.S. appears to be in a vulnerable position. It was no secret that the U.S.'s stockpile of interceptors was stretched going into the conflict. The battle was a race with the U.S. and Israel trying to destroy as many of Iran's ballistic missiles and launchers inside of the country as possible, and Iran trying to outlie the supplies of the U.S., Israeli, and Gulf interceptors. The New York Times reported last week that Iran has about 70% of the mobile missile launchers and roughly 70% of missile stockpile it had before the war. The Washington Post reported that the U.S. would likely have to carry an even greater share of Israel's defense if the war resumes because of a recent decision by the Israeli military to take some of its missile defense batteries offline for maintenance. The imbalance will likely be exacerbated if its fighting restarts, the U.S. official told the newspaper. So, Very, very interesting. Okay, so when we continue looking at these stories here, we also have the first Gaza Flotilla activists arrive in Turkey after the Israel deportation. Hundreds of activists from countries around the world were placed in detention in Israel after they were intercepted at sea on Monday. 50 vessels, by the way, from what I had read. This article comes from Agence France Presse. Israel said on Thursday it had deported all the foreign activists seized by its forces from a Gaza-bound flotilla as the first group arrived in Turkey following the global outcry over the treatment in custody. By the way, God bless these activists, because ultimately at the end of the day, what's happening in Israel, what's happening to the Palestinians is not okay. This is a Holocaust. It is a genocide on the Palestinian people. And again, as an America First person myself, I do believe that we shouldn't just let, any kind of country into America and just let all of these same countries come here, especially because the Israelis, if anything, the Israelis need to be able to live with their neighbors of whom they've been living with since 1947, which is the Palestinian people. And if it weren't for the Balfour Agreement, then really, again, the Balfour Agreement, if you didn't know, was essentially a deal between Lord Jacob Rothschild and the British government to establish an independent Israeli state, a Zionist state, in the state of Palestine. Okay, so really, the state of Israel only exists because of this Balfour Agreement. And so in 1947, when the Israelis moved in to Gaza, or Palestine today, essentially, they have been living with these neighbors, and a lot of Zionists, by the way, a lot of Jews also believe that they don't want this war to go on. A lot of Israelis who are living there today, they do not want this because they understand, what this is really doing to the state of Israel. The state of Israel is not going to survive this because ultimately they are going to lose all of their allies. And this appears to be the newest kind of trend. Okay, that is why Israel wants to continue this war, though, the Netanyahu government at the very least, the Zionist set of Judaism, not all Jews, but we have to understand that this is a very real thing that's happening. So God bless these Gaza freedom aid givers, these people who had attempted to help the people of Gaza, because it's rather important that we do stand up for those who are innocent, unable to defend themselves, and being completely holocausted. Everything that the Jews had said that the Nazis did in World War II, it appears to me, and I think most people, that this is what the Jews today, the Zionists specifically, are doing to these people of Palestine, okay, rather than just living with their neighbors, of whom they invaded on their land. The Israelis had invaded on the Palestinian land, okay? And so some people will argue, well, no, the Israelis, it goes back to Jacob and Ishmael, and actually the Israelis owned that land first. Yeah. But listen, ultimately, at the end of the day, this is not the solution for the Israeli people, okay? The Israeli people could have had their state of Israel, which they already had since 1967, essentially. They've had specifically, really, more since 1967. That was when the entire government has pretty much, when it was really established as a government, more notified, basically when it was seen as a legitimate government. Essentially, they've been living with the Palestinian people all this time, and now they want to just ethnically cleanse the entire land. So that is what is so wrong with this, okay? So hundreds of activists from countries around the world were placed in detention in Israel after they were intercepted at sea on Monday while making the latest in a string of attempts to break the blockade of the Palestinian territory. Turkish Foreign Ministry sources said 422 activists, among them 85 Turkish nationals, were flown from southern Israel on 3 planes chartered by Ankara. A first group of arrivals were seen inside the VIP terminal in Istanbul airport as a group of supporters carrying Palestinian flags gathered to welcome them, an Agence France Presse correspondent said. Israeli forces attacked us. Each one of us was beaten, women and men. It's what Palestinians experience all the time, said Turkish national Bulal Kitay after he got off the plane. Israeli far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir sparked widespread condemnation and a diplomatic backlash on Wednesday by posting a video showing the detained activists with their hands tied and foreheads on the ground. Israel Foreign Ministry spokesman Oren Mormestein said on Thursday that all foreign activists from the PR Flotilla have been deported from Israel. Israel will not permit any breach of the lawful naval blockade on Gaza. They beat us up, they kicked us and punched us and shouted, "Welcome to Israel." Upon arrival in Istanbul airport, one of the activists shouted, "The Palestinian people are not alone," as he emerged from the terminal. "We've been tortured, we've been beaten, we've been arrested in international waters, but we won't give up. We will return. Palestine will be free from river to the sea," he said to cheers from the crowd. Brave, 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 I will say. The legal centre representing the Flotilla members said earlier on Thursday that the majority were en route for deportation from Ramman Airport in Israel's far south. Adallah said they had been held at Israel's Ziat prison in the Negev desert near Gaza. A spokesman for Adallah said activists from Egypt had been transferred to Taba at Egypt's border with Israel, while those from Jordan had been transferred to Aqaba. Around 50 vessels under the global Sumud Flotilla set sail from Turkey last week in the last attempts by activists to breach Israel's blockade of Gaza after Israeli forces intercepted a previous convoy last month. The deportations come after footage posted by Ben Gvir captioned "Welcome to Israel" and showing the minister hustling and waving an Israeli flag among the detained activists, sparking resounding condemnation by governments around the world, from Italy to Spain and Australia to Canada. He was also criticized at home by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Foreign Minister Gideon Saar, as well as by U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee. Italy and Spain have called on the European Union to sanction Ben Gvir, with Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani and Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez calling the treatment of the activists unacceptable. In Ireland, a leaked letter revealed that Prime Minister Michael Martin urging the EU chief for further action against Israel over the treatment, including a ban on settlement goods and suspension of parts, if not all, of the EU's association agreement with Israel. The United Kingdom announced it had summoned Israel's most senior diplomat to Britain following the inflammatory video. Adallah's legal director, Suhad Bashara, told Agence France Presse on Wednesday that the group's lawyers had given legal counsel to many of the activists, though she added others had faced court hearings without legal help. "We know at least of 2 participants who were hospitalized. Both of them were shot by rubber bullets," Bashara said, adding that others said they feared they had broken ribs. Alessandro Mantovani, an Italian journalist detained with the Flotilla activists and deported before the others, told reporters in Italy on Thursday that he and others were taken to Ben Gurion Airport in handcuffs and with chains on our feet and put on a flight to Athens. "They beat us up, they kicked us and punched us and shouted, 'Welcome Israel,'" he said of his treatment by the Israeli security forces. Israel controls all entry points into Gaza under blockade since 2007. Since the start of the war in Gaza sparked by Hamas' October 7, 2023 attack on Israel, the territory has suffered severe shortages of food, medicine, and other supplies, with Israel at times halting aid deliveries entirely, which they did in this case. So that's the story on the Flotilla activists. Again, God bless them. I think what they're doing is extremely brave, and I think they're doing the right thing. Okay, this is just a little bit more context on it. So again, the 430 international activists detained from the global Sumud Flotilla, often reported as the Gaza Freedom Flotilla, have all been deported from Israel following the intense global backlash. So we just read a lot about that, but that's essentially, these images show kind of where they were being held, at least at the docks where they were basically taken. After Israeli naval forces intercepted their 50-vessel aid convoy in international waters, the activists were initially taken to the port of Ashdod for processing. Again, that's at the Ashdod port. And then Ketziat prison. Organizers and family members confirmed that the detainees were briefly transferred to Ketziat prison in the southern Negev desert. So, pretty big story there. And we'll see what happens, but it is good that they have all been deported back to at least where, out of Gaza. No more danger. On to Ukraine and Russia war. The Ukraine-Russia war latest, NATO chief warns Putin of devastating consequences if nuclear weapons used against Kiev. So let's take a listen to this video. The security forces and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Well, let me just turn this up. I just turn up the volume. Oh my God. Why is this volume so annoying? There we go. Okay, good enough. We discussed the details along the Belarus. What the fuck? Oh my gosh. Why? I hate
If someone
that
was
so
considering
much.
Botox cosmetic for the first time,
Who else is sick of these ads? Like, it's so ridiculous. Okay, okay, we're back. Ridiculous. I don't know how any of that happened, but we just made sure we're still up here. That's so annoying. Who gets annoyed by all of these ads? Like, seriously, click a like if you are tired of ads. It ruins everything. Scenarios for additional attacks. Okay, we're going to just rewind this a little bit. The Security Service of Ukraine and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we discussed in detail the latest developments along the Belarus Byrants. It is precisely from there that the Russians are considering scenarios for additional attacks against Ukraine, targeting our northern regions, our Kharkiv, Kiev direction. Of course, we are already working to strengthen our defenses in this area. Relevant instructions have been issued to the military command, but separately, we are also taking preventive steps regarding both Belarus and designed parts of Russia from which the threat originates. So again, we will see what happens with that. But again, the Russia-Ukraine war is continuing to go on. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has also said that Russia will be met with a devastating response if it attacks Ukraine with a nuclear weapon. Speaking at a pre-ministerial press conference at NATO's headquarters, Rutte said, well, Russia knows if that happens, the reaction is devastating. Russia and Belarus have kick-started 3 days of military drills with Moscow deploying nuclear munitions in the storage facilities of Belarus just miles north of Ukraine. The drills will also improve tests of nuclear capabilities as well as missiles, and the process for moving them in secret ahead of launch, Russia's defense ministry said. Russia has deployed more than 64,000 personnel and over 7,800 pieces of military equipment in the drills, with more than 200 missile launchers, more than 140 aircraft, 73 surface ships, and 13 submarines, 8 of them strategic missile submarines, its defense ministry said. Rutte said that the alliance was monitoring the exercises closely. It comes as Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky warned of the possible fresh ground offensive from Russia against the Ukrainian capital, Kiev. Such operation would likely be made possible by deeper involvement from Belarus, Zelensky said. So that's the story on Russia today, Russia and Ukraine. My opinion on it, I believe that from when you look at all of this, the Ukrainians did start this war. And really, when you say the Ukrainians, you have to understand that the Ukrainians are essentially a proxy force of the United States. Okay, Lindsey Graham, who really was calling for this entire war? It was Lindsey Graham. It was the warmongers. It was the, it was the neo-hawks. Everybody sitting around Trump. And for years now, they've wanted this Ukraine war. Even during Biden, by the way. This really started during Biden. And do I blame Biden? Well, yeah, because he didn't really know what was going on. He didn't really know which way was up. But at the end of the day, you also have to understand the people around the president have far more power than the president does. The president is a puppet. The president is simply there to give messaging. And really, a lot of them are usually controlled, blackmailed, threatened, their lives, whether it's Biden, whether it's Obama, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's Hillary Clinton. These people have far less power than the people who are behind the curtains. And these people who are behind the curtains, many of them similar to Lindsey Graham and that kind of rhetoric, they've been pushing this entire Ukraine war the entire time. And really, the United States, again, has been using Ukraine as a proxy force to fight against the Russians. The Russians, however, already owned the Ukrainian land far long ago. Okay, so if I had to choose a side, I would want Russia to win because, again, we do need to end the war. And the Ukrainians are not backing down, meaning that, but at the same time, all they're trying to do is really stir up the pot. If you really look at this entire analysis of what this war actually is. Okay, so when you look at the Ukrainians and the Russians, again, you have all of these NATO fighting forces and the EU. They continue to put different fighting forces of all different kinds of people. They're throwing all the men in the Ukrainian, all the Ukrainian men were thrown into white vans, forced into this war that they really didn't want to fight in, and they're getting slaughtered. The slaughter is continuing. The Russians have won the war against Ukraine. That is something everybody needs to come to terms with. And ultimately, this, again, is a war for the United States, and they're using Ukraine as a proxy force. I want the Russians to win to end that war. Okay, this war needs to end. We need to have no more wars. And ultimately, Russia needs to be able to take the territory that was rightfully theirs. Historically, it was. So ultimately, when you look at this war and what's happening, what chance do the Ukrainians really have to defeat Russia? And also, how does this benefit Israel? A lot. Because if you really know your stuff, you understand that Ukraine is just another state that is in the eyes of the Greater Israel Project. Okay, so originally it started off with 7 countries being conquered within 5 years. These 7 countries were Saudi Arabia, one of the countries was Syria, then Iraq, then Iran, then Cyprus, then Kuwait, okay? And then on top of that, you had Yemen and Oman. And then, of course, now they're going into Lebanon, which was one of them also. And then now they want to take that into Turkey after Lebanon. And again, they've already said they're using the Gaza model with Lebanon. And then they're saying that they're going to move into Turkey. And then what comes after Turkey? Well, that comes Ukraine. And so that's that war. All of these wars are being fought at the same time. And they want to confuse you and make you think that this is just Ukraine versus Russia, but there are so many different moving parts and so many different players. So to understand what's happening in this war, you have to be able to understand what's really going on with these warlords and who is really working for who, right? We know that Vladimir Zelensky is a Zionist and he is Jewish, and that is something to think about. And so where is Zelensky really leading his people? Into the slaughterhouse. And for what reason? Well, because they're trying to make Ukraine into another Jewish state, very much like the Israelis are doing with Argentina. They're burning the forests in Argentina because they want to move in, swoop in, and they want to take that land. Okay, ultimately, that is what's happening. And by the way, why is Argentina important? Patagonia forests? Well, that has a long extension into Antarctica, which is very powerful. Again, the Nazis had conquered parts of Antarctica during Hitler's time. And so there was a lot of research facilities, a lot of science, a lot of geological sites in Antarctica that you're not even allowed to visit today. Okay, so, and you have to ask yourself why. Well, a lot of military projects are being done there. And then maybe even the extraterrestrials, if you want to go even further with it. Okay, so lots of things that we're not allowed to know about Antarctica, how that impacts Argentina, which is right on that tip of Antarctica. It's pretty much geographically right there. Okay, so you have to think about that. Quickest access to Antarctica. Why are the Israelis trying to take all of these different states at once, using proxy forces and proxy armies, as well as the EU and NATO to do it? That's my question. And any other analysts will not be allowed to say that. But that is true. So how is this all impacting the markets? Let's actually take a look at this. So when we look at the oil markets, again, WTI crude is at $97.63. Brent crude is at $102.06. Merbrand crude is at $102.02. And natural gas is at $2.99. So when you look at this entire war, again, this is how it's impacting the oil prices. And again, that also matters because when you look at the entire maritime traffic and everything that's going on with the Strait of Hormuz, this kind of tells a story in itself, right? We've been tracking the Strait of Hormuz and everything that's been going on in the Strait of Hormuz. And if you really look at this, you can understand that with all of this traffic, we're paying attention to certain areas. Is there flow through the Strait of Hormuz? Well, there seems to be a little bit more than there has been in the previous weeks. But at the same time, the blockade still stands in the Strait of Hormuz. And also, near Fujairah, we also have all of the insurance companies that are not feeling so hot about the war, as I always like to say. You see these patched-in crude oil tankers all in one place. Okay, so you're starting to see actually a little bit more disbursement, more movement, so there's not as much congestion. So what that means is if we're checking the patterns from the past few days, there's starting to become more movement, whatever that means. Maybe it's because of Donald Trump's statements. Maybe it's because, again, this Iran war could be coming to a close. But ultimately, it's because of news, and everything runs on the news, right? So we do still have anchorage of a lot of crude oil tankers and whatnot. We have shipping containers and things like this moving across the entire Persian Gulf. We have Qatar, a lot of congestion in Qatar right now, a lot of activity in Qatar. Whether they're fishing boats, sometimes these can actually be used as Iranian proxy boats. Again, that's a fishing boat right there. These can often be used as fighter boats, and that's something to think about. And also, when we look at Qatar, that's a huge ally of the United States. And so that's why you're also going to see a lot of crude oil tankers and, proxy vessels that we like to use, whether it's from the Marshall Islands, whether it's from Liberia. We use a lot of these different vessels as proxies to basically work for us. So we have LNG tankers, right, that are essentially huge for this entire war. These are liquefied natural gas tankers. These are huge for this entire war to track. Just tried to track this one, but wasn't able to for some reason. But when you look at all of this, there's movement in the Strait of Hormuz, in the Persian Gulf, where we're looking right now. You also have to pay attention to Bahrain, okay? So we have less congestion in this area, but container vessels are trying to stay out of here, and you also have a lot of crude oil tankers who are also not trying to be in this area. Right, so when we're looking at all these different forms of tankers, you're mostly seeing fishing vessels here. Whatever that means. Bahrain's kind of being taken out of the question. Okay, you also have to pay attention to Ras Tanura, because when you see congestion in this area, also telling that there is a lot of maritime traffic and insurance companies that are going to be deciding the war. When you see a lot of congestion of oil tankers here, not good. So what are we seeing compared to the last 2 days, the last 48 hours? You're not seeing as much congestion by the oil tankers. So where are they going? When we actually track it, you have to look at Karg Island as well. Trump wants Karg Island. He keeps talking about Karg Island. He wants Karg Island. Why? Because this is basically a central hub for the Iranian state to get a lot of Iranian energy. A lot of energy shipments and imports and exports come from this island. So very interesting to notice this. Again, and over the past 72 hours, actually it looks like it's been somewhat the same, but there does seem to be more activity happening around the Karg Island. But where are we congested? That's what we have to pay attention to. A lot of anchorage right here in this area. So that tells us that there could be a lot of activity happening right here in the Persian Gulf. A lot of U.S. ships are pretty much on the eastern side of the Persian Gulf. Okay, so you're seeing, and you're not going to see them on these trackers because the United States has we have, the most powerful Navy on Earth. So we have that ability to kind of hide where we're at. Again, when we look at the Red Sea, there's less of that straight line. Okay, so there's less risk is what I like to see. Okay, so when you see a little bit more congestion near these shorelines, that means that these are probably more safe areas for these, tankers to really flow through, right? So you got some anchorage here, but you got a lot of tankers that have been hanging out in this area. That tells us that, again, there is trade happening. It's just not happening a lot. Okay, and then the last place you really need to look is the Suez Canal. You got a lot of anchorage here. So this tells me that this is probably a hot spot right now in this war, is this Suez Canal. I think there's likely a lot of activity happening here. Insurance companies are not feeling hot about this area. And so what that means is you have more congestion, you have less movement, less flow through. So this was far more active, this area, yesterday, this Suez Canal. And let's take a look at Port Said. Oh, look at that. So even more anchorage than we've seen in the past 48 hours, I would say. And you're seeing even more anchored crude oil tankers and things like that. Oil products tanker, this is a Liberian tanker, as you can see by the flag. The Liberian flag looks like a United States flag, but it's not. This is a Liberian flag. And so when you look at these flags, again, that's probably a sign that that could be a U.S. tanker right there. Okay, again, never forget that we use proxy tankers. What's happening in Cyprus? A lot of ships are doing their trade now in Cyprus. They have to go to Cyprus. This is where the EU and the United States like to do a lot of our trade as well. So again, you're seeing a lot of scattered traffic here. That means that this is more of a safe area. But again, when you look near Israel or Lebanon, you have almost no traffic. Why? Because you have a lot of blockades happening here. Okay, these blockades are strategically placed to keep people out of, again, that looks like that could be part of it. You have these different blockades right here. Again, these look like this could be a blockade right here. Again, cement carrier, all these different kind of things. But they're hanging out in this little spot. And I just lost my page. That's amazing. Love that. Just give it a moment. Got to refresh the page here. Oh, that's so annoying. Anyways, be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe if you are enjoying this information, if you're enjoying the news. Ultimately, we have to be prepared for anything, though, as we look at this map and everything that's going on, right? And then lastly, one of the last things you have to pay attention to is the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. So again, you do still have flow through going through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. So this right now appears to be less risk than the Suez Canal, where you have a lot of anchorage, or Port Said, where you have a lot of anchorage. And then you also need to pay attention to how much traffic is going around this southern tip of Africa, the Cape of Good Hope here, where my cursor is, and they're moving all the way upwards. They have to go all around the continent of Africa, essentially, to get where they need to go, as you can see from the maritime traffic here and all those shipping lanes. Okay, and then you also have to pay attention to Singapore and all these different places, but really we're focusing on the Strait of Hormuz because that's where the war is really happening, right? When we look at Tehran and all of the Iranian activity here, also more activity that we could probably find a lot of information on, right? So when you see all of this, you have probably more Iranian tankers and allies of the Iranians working here, but you'll probably see a lot of special operations happening in this area. because if we can control the northern end of Iran, then we can control that entire continent and potentially Karg Island from both sides. And so you're going to have to expect that the United States military and Trump may want to do something like that. Very important to consider all of these objectives and possibilities. All right, so on to the stock market now. May 21st, NEO stock paired early gains after revenue surges and adjusted profit returns. So again, Chinese electric vehicle manufacturer NEO closed Thursday at $5.60, up 18.18%. The stock swung as traders reacted to the Q1 2026 results, showing surging revenue, improved margins, and a return to adjusted profitability. Ongoing net losses and where was I? I was just looking at my screen there, monitoring. So, ongoing net losses and updated delivery guidance have investors split on whether the company is at an inflection point. Trading volumes reached 96.1 million shares, coming in at about 139% above its 3-month average of 40.2 million shares. Okay, so that's kind of the news on the stock market. The S&P 500 is right about at $7,445. The Dow Jones is above $50,000 at $50,285. So that's good for the stock market. Again, oil is pretty much staying right where it's at, right at about $100 for Brent crude and for WTI crude. And then with crypto, we are doing a little bit better than we were yesterday in regards to the fear and greed index. We're at only 41 fear and greed here, so that's pretty decent. That's not the worst news, but we are waiting on the Clarity Act before we see actual price movement. But we are paying attention to it because it could happen at any date. Okay, and you also have to pay attention to all of these acquisitions that are happening between these cryptocurrency companies, especially Ripple, making a lot of moves. Might be worth more than Bitcoin one day. We'll see. But based on where things are going, again, Bitcoin does hold that dominance, and they're lying around $77,536. Ethereum's at $2,129. Binance at $656.22. XRP's at $1.37. Maybe soon it'll be at $137. Solana is at $87.44. That's another good coin that Trump had recommended out of them. Again, it was Bitcoin, it was XRP, it was Cardano, it was Solana, and it was Ethereum. Those were the big ones that Trump had chosen. I think HBAR has a place too. That's kind of another coin. Maybe even Dogecoin as well, just because Elon likes to play around with that. But the market's pretty much where it was yesterday. Not too much news on crypto. We're just waiting for the July 4th mark update for the Senate hearings and the Ethics Committee to basically give their analysis on what's happening. And then we're going to look at gold, and then we're going to get into some of the Twitter X algorithm. Again, right now the price of gold is at $4,534.16, while silver's at $76.58 per ounce. So again, when we look at all of this, gold is still always a good investment. You should always invest in gold. And again, invest in real estate. Work with me, Brendan Ecker Realty. Again, you could go over to BrendanEckerRealty.com and you'll be able to, fill out a contact form, or you can just click the link in the description below. I am a Michigan realtor. I'll be able to help you out, whether it's buying or selling your home, then call me up. And at the same time, if you want to grow your business, then we also have Gold Shark Media AI, which can be found at goldsharkmedia.com. And again, that's just a CRM for you to run your business all in one place. So if you are an online service, if you're a service business, you're an agency, if you're a med spa, if you're a lawyer, if you have real clients that you need to manage in the pipeline, you need to manage your follow-up, all of this stuff, it's already built for you with the system, right? So work with me, Brendan Ecker Realty, or just Brendan Ecker. Email me at brendan.ecker@exprealty.com. Visit goldsharkmedia.com, and you'll, again, click the links in the description below. And, of course, check out my Substack. Support me on there. That is where I like to collect any kind of income I can on top of that, because I do enjoy bringing you the news. So now let's look at some of the headlines. Let's look at some breaking news, anything new that's come up. Again, lots of XRP news coming through the algorithm. A lot of big stuff. Okay, so I did want to cover some bookmarked information. Wanted to see if there was anything new while we popped in here. But again, all of these are pretty big videos I wanted to react to. So let's take a look at this. Iran's president, we don't bow our heads to anyone. So you tell me when we watch this if the Iranians are in any kind of mood to back down from this war. I don't see that happening. I don't see the Iranians backing down from this war when we look at everything going on. So let's take a look. We will not bow our heads. This is an argument that I, as a human being, feel as responsible. A person in no way I will bow down to any power and sacrifice the honor and pride of our country. We will not sacrifice our comfort and our world. It's an evil thing to do. If I convey a false message, if I convey a false narrative to the people and to the society, the devil has infiltrated. If I am not honest with the people, I am evil. These are the things that we have to be honest with each other if we want to be all together. We deal honestly with each other. Join hands to disappoint the enemy. Let us accept that all those who live in this country, men and women, must rise up based on their merit and ability. So again, the Iranian people aren't backing down is what this is really telling us, right? When we look at all of this, the Iranians are not backing down anytime soon. Trump is saying that, oh, the Iranians have no fight in them. They're not fighting anymore. We're going to win this war. Maybe not, okay? Because, again, this is a fighting force that we attacked when, again, they have 90 million people. Okay, the Iranian people are probably one of the more unified countries of the Arabic countries. If you know anything about the Middle East, as I've been trying to learn more about it, as we've been covering it on this show, we have to understand that the Iranian people were attacked first by the United States and Israel. Israel really is the reason we're in this war and stuck in this. The people around Trump and his cabinet have persuaded him that this Iran war is militarily and strategically beneficial for the United States, when in reality, now he's learning that it's not. And even Donald Trump has said, we're doing this war for we're doing this war for Israel, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and all of the Gulf states. Basically, that is what he said. For Qatar. And so really this has no benefit to America. And Donald Trump apparently knows that now. He's already made statements on it on Fox News, on Sean Hannity. You can go on my YouTube channel, look on all of our YouTube shorts. And I have a full clip of Donald Trump. I don't even react to it. I just posted it right there. Donald Trump says, we don't need it. We don't need it at all. We don't need the Iran war. So that tells me it's like, and then meantime, the Iranians say, no, we're not done yet. We're going to keep going. And we're going to control this Strait of Hormuz. So again, we controlled the Strait of Hormuz as the United States already before this war. And then now we're in this war and we're not controlling it. And so now we have to regain control of it. And now we have to do it with China's help. And in order for China to do it, now they're going to send 500,000 students to the United States in return of their coalitional help. And so that's not good. So ultimately, let's hope that Trump just strategically withdraws from this war, honestly. And ultimately, we have our own oil. We have Canada. We have Cuba. We have Venezuela, especially a huge, huge resource for oil. And we can control, again, potentially Greenland soon. But looks like the people of Greenland are not so fond of that. But we will see. Mohammed Al-Bakadir Omar, one of the Medicaid fraudsters in Minnesota who has recently been indicted for stealing $3.3 million, was caught in Minnesota, who was arrested after he attempted to flee from the FBI. Footage captures Omar limping away during his attempted escape after he jumped from a fourth-story balcony. So, look at this. I don't know why it's playing that old video. There we go. So again, apparently he jumped from a four-story window. Crazy. And pretty much broke his ankle, probably. Maybe even, looks like a broken ankle most likely, because he's still able to stand up, put pressure on it. So I would guess a broken ankle. But the FBI caught him. $3.3 million in Medicaid fraud. That's a real problem, ladies and gents. We got to get rid of it. Also news from the CSIS. At a Dalian shipyard in northern China, construction is underway on China's fourth aircraft carrier, their Type 004, leverages commercial satellite imagery and other open source information to report the carrier's development. So let's take a look at this. This is very important. All right. So let's check this out. The pace of the carrier's construction is impressive. In less than a year, prefabricated components that first appeared in the Dalian dry dock in early 2025 has been assembled into clearly recognizable hull, highlighting the speed and speed and scale of China's maritime industrial base. Again, more images of this. That's kind of what it looks like. But again, China is building their naval fleet. China is on their way to be the most powerful navy. I would say they're number 2 if we look at all of the most powerful navies on this planet. Clean aircraft, nearly certain. The carrier will be nuclear powered, likely. This aircraft carrier is larger than China's previous 3, very likely. The vessel will have 4 aircraft launch catapults, plausible. Carrier will have a 3rd aircraft elevator, plausible. We look at this information. Oh, jeez. We look at this information. Pretty big news. Okay. Rumors have long surrounded China's aircraft carriers during construction. It examines claims about the 4th carrier and evaluates them against the evidence. This is a hitting aircraft carrier, assesses with near certainty that the vessel is an aircraft carrier. Its whole configuration makes it clear that it's not a civilian commercial ship, and the dots where the vessel is being built is a repeated site for carrier work. The carrier will be a nuclear-powered carrier. The technical leap to a nuclear power carrier would enable longer operations from China's shores. Satellite imagery shows 2 hull components that could become shielded nuclear reactor containment systems. The ship is larger than China's previous carriers. The vessel is already shaping to be larger than China's 3rd and largest aircraft carrier, the Fujian. Its beam currently measures 46 meters compared to 40 meters for the Fujian at a similar stage. Okay, so again, there's more images of the Type 004 aircraft carrier. This is the Dalian Shipyard, May 4th, 2026. Huge find, but it definitely appears to be set up like it, potentially. Very interesting. And this is the Type 003 aircraft carrier. So when we look at all of this, very interesting stuff. Okay, what do they not want you to know? The block production area, modular component purportedly featuring 2 catapult trenches. Yep, that looks like it to me. So when we look at all of this, very scary stuff. China is building up their military. They're building up their navy. It will also have a 3rd aircraft elevator. Questions remain about the elevators for moving aircraft between lower-level hangars and the flight deck. More elevators speed up the process of moving aircraft. The Fujian has 2 elevators. It is nuclear. How many? It is unclear. It is nuclear. It is unclear how many of the Type 004 we will have. China's 4th aircraft carrier is the latest step in its rapid modernization drive and underscores Beijing's continued push towards a larger, more capable blue water fleet. If China does build out an extensive carrier fleet, it could shift the global balance of military power. Absolutely, it can. So again, there's just one more image of it. So again, China's building up their navy. That's something that we need to pay attention to during all of this skirmish, all of this craziness. Meanwhile, NATO intelligence reportedly believes Russia is developing underwater nuclear missile systems hidden in the Arctic seabed. So again, when we look more into this, Polymarkets Post reports unverified NATO intelligence claims that Russia is advancing underwater nuclear missile systems concealed on the Arctic seabed using just-in format to highlight escalating geopolitical tensions. So it's also important to note that Russia's already had a lot of this kind of technology. You're just hearing about it now. This aligns with Russia's documented Poseidon program, an autonomous nuclear-powered underwater drone tested in the Arctic since 2016. Yeah, designed for deep-sea stealth and second strike deterrence alongside expanded Northern Fleet submarine operations. The Post draws mixed replies ranging from skepticism about propaganda to speculation linking it to Arctic strategy like Greenland access, underscoring how much reports can repeatedly influence prediction markets on global security. So this is why it is important that the United States controls Greenland, and this is why it is important that the United States does control Cuba, because these other fleets, whether it's China or Russia, do have efforts and ambitions to control these countries as well. If we don't control it, then they will. And I believe that the United States should control the entire Western Hemisphere. I'm a big believer of that, especially when Cuba is a communist country. We don't need that to be a real thing. We need to take that land, and we need to take the resources. Absolutely. I have no problem with that. Sorry if you are not full on the America First train, but we do need to have Western Hemispheric dominance. And this is important for the United States and our national security. Having Greenland is important for the United States for our northern front and also to have access to the Arctic, because if we do not get it, then Russia will get it, or potentially China. And what would happen if China controlled Greenland? It wouldn't be too good. It wouldn't be a good look for the United States, and it wouldn't be good in general, because China would then control Greenland, and they would have basically, they'd be able to control launch pads right from Greenland onto our soil. Trump maybe needs to talk more about that, because if we don't take it, then China or Russia is going to take it. And then America has a real gap in security. Again, they could launch missiles right at us and just lob them over from Greenland. Same thing with Cuba on the southern front. So we have to think about strategy and military and how this actually makes sense for the United States of America first. And so I am a huge proponent of taking, Greenland and all these countries in the Western Hemisphere, so China and Russia, these communist countries, do not. Okay, as much as I actually like Russia, I actually do think Russia is no longer a communist country. I think Russia is an Orthodox Christian country these days. They have changed a lot, and I'm rooting for them. And I actually think we should be allies with Russia and China. We should not be enemies. Our countries should be in alliance, and quite literally, perhaps even against Israel. I couldn't imagine what the United States would be like if America, Russia, and China were allies. That's just my opinion on the matter. So, on to the next story. What do you think about that, though? What do you think about America controlling the Western Hemisphere? Leave your comment. Boom, a federal grand jury in Chicago has just criminally indicted Diego Reyes after he rammed his vehicle into ICE agents during Operation Midday Blitz and can now face up to 20 years behind bars. Yep. Oh, excuse me. Can't do that. Seriously. Like, how is that acceptable? And this is how these people will treat ICE. And these people should just stay in our country? We should just let them stay in our country? No, this is not how you should treat law enforcement. Especially, and some people think, the law enforcement officers today are controlled by Israel. It's like, no, they're not. No, they're not. Listen, that was you have different factions of every police department who are subverted in some ways. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I am pro-ICE. And I think Trump did the wrong thing by pulling ICE out of Minneapolis. I think we should have absolutely been detaining all of those illegal immigrants in that city. There's no reason that they should have a right to live here, living off the American tax dollar while we pay for their stay. And so they can leech off of all of the resources. And then they run for politics and control your cities and then make them dirty in third world. Sorry, but it's true. You see this happening all over the world today. You see it in India. You see it in Somalia. All where these people are coming from. Okay, they're coming here and bringing their way of life here. Not okay. So again, the people of Greenland are demonstrating against the new American consulate in Newark, chanting, "Go home, USA. Everyone is tired of Trump wanting to take their country." Well, Greenland, let me tell you something. If the United States doesn't control Greenland, I promise you that the Chinese will. And I promise you will have far less rights and far less money if the Chinese were to control Greenland. And they want Greenland. And if the Russians were to control Greenland, same deal. Okay, and again, if NATO controlled it, it wouldn't be any better for you. NATO has no money. NATO and the United Nations is out of money. And they've already said this. They have no budget. So if it's not America controlling Greenland, somebody's going to control it, and it will be not America. And let me tell you, you're not going to win. If it's you're not going to do great as a country if you have China and Russia controlling your countries. And it's not going to be good for anybody, really. Ultimately, it won't be. It will help their governments over the United States government, first of all. And second of all, it's not going to lead to any kind of hegemony or power over that land. If the Greenland people, again, want power and military prowess, then you might want to work with the United States. We still do have the most powerful military, by the way. Okay, we've been depleted because of this Iran war, but that does not mean that America is the weakest military by any means. And so if I was living in Greenland, I would want the United States of America to control Greenland. Same thing with Canada. Ultimately, Canada has been overrun by Indians today and all of these foreign third world people. It's like, and Chinese especially. A lot of Chinese in Canada today. And there's literally military operations on the northern border of Canada. We have no border wall, by the way, between us and Canada. And so it's like, we might as well take Canada, because if we don't, it's going to be overrun by the Chinese. It's going to be overrun by Chinese, these Somalians, all these immigrants that already live there, Indians. It's going to be bad. And same thing with Greenland. So this is why I believe the United States does need to take Greenland. SpaceX filed the largest IPO in stock market history, targeting a $1.75 trillion valuation on Nasdaq under ticker SPCX. Listing starts as early as June 12th. Elon retains 85.1% of voting power. At the target valuation, his SpaceX stake alone pushes his net worth past $1 trillion. That means he could become the first trillionaire in history. 100%. I have been predicting for years that Elon Musk would be the first trillionaire before anybody really believed that. I had predicted that Elon would be the first trillionaire when he was about to lose Tesla. When Elon was about to lose Tesla, I had literally predicted that he's going to end up being the first trillionaire because he had the most cutting edge technology. His company had the most excitement behind it and all of that. And now we're seeing all of these different companies that are popping up, same kind of energy. And these valuations are just off the charts, by the way. So again, Elon, we are plummeting the birth rates in most places. Resources will be fine. Earth is 70% water. The real crisis isn't resources, it's people. The math compounds every year. So let's take a listen to this video.
We should be cautious about civilizational decline and we have plummeting birth rates most places, yeah.
Right, and also plummeting resources. I mean,
resources will be fine.
But they're not
And
fine.
I know a lot about
They're not fine now.
No, look, I'm not suggesting complacency. We do want to move to a sustainable energy economy as quickly as possible, but we're not in any danger of resource collapse.
But lots of people don't have enough food or water. Water, we will run out of water. They're running out of sand.
No, Earth is 70% water by surface area.
That was such a dumb statement that Bill Maher just said. There is 70% of the Earth that has been unexplored. We have not explored 70%. Okay, 70% of the Earth is ocean water, and we've basically explored none of it. So it's like, what a stupid statement. No offense, Bill Maher. I'm not, I'm kind of a fan of Bill Maher. I like some of the things he says. Some of the things I think he says are ridiculous, like this statement. But yeah, Elon's right at the end of the day.
But you can't drink that.
But desalination is absurdly cheap.
Yes.
Why don't we do it then?
We do. It is done.
You have a lot of free time.
It's not done enough.
It is done. There is a lot of desalination done.
Okay,
there's plenty of water. This is not an issue. We should.
Well, the reason Elon can't do that as much as he'd like to is because in the United States, you're literally seen as a criminal by these city councils and governments for it. But I'm totally down. Let's evolve. Tesla's RoboTaxi rollout is starting to sound less like a future prediction and more like a countdown. No driver, no safety monitor, already running in multiple Texas cities. Now, Elon says widespread U.S. rollout could happen before year end. Craziest part, most people haven't still emotionally processed that the car is already driving itself around real cities. Yeah, in Las Vegas, when I went to Las Vegas, I had noticed that there was already autonomous vehicles driving around with no driver. And it looked like they were doing a lot of monitoring and testing and data configuration, all of this kind of stuff. But you're seeing all of these autonomous vehicles everywhere. And this is really the iRobot future. In the near future, that 2035, it was supposed to take place in 2035, the movie iRobot with Will Smith. That's really where Elon is going, with at least with his companies now. With Tesla, that's where I see things going. And that's the future that's going to be built. And you're going to see that. By the year 2035, you will probably have that iRobot very close to it. Maybe we're like 5 years behind. Maybe it'll be like 2040. But by the year 2040, we will probably see a lot of robot cops. You'll see, a whole civilization of robots walking around, and they'll be fully functional. It's going to be dangerous. It's going to be pretty scary. Mass extinction event on the way, perhaps. But ultimately, this is what's being rolled out soon. So are you a fan of the electric vehicles? For me, I'm not. I would rather have a real vehicle. I think we need to have, at the very least, we need to have a hybrid system where there's a key ignition, where a human is always automating it or managing it. But on the same level, it's like, when I was driving to South Carolina like a month ago, I'm going through North Carolina, and it's crazy. The people are driving like idiots. People can't even remember to turn on a blinker. And then I'm supposed to be told that robots are terrible drivers and that they're going to kill us. It's like, well, we're going to kill each other. Okay. People don't wear their seatbelts. People don't even know how to use their blinker when they're turning lanes, right? When they're shifting lanes. It's unbelievable. People are going 25 miles over the speed limit in high traffic condensed areas. Absolutely insane. So maybe these, autonomous vehicles won't be the worst thing for society. But at the same time, we need to have a hybrid system where we can have a key ignition. humans can operate it. Otherwise, we're going to lose all autonomy of our own selves as humans. So on to the next story. Dr. Swain, I can promise you there's no freaking way I'm buying your book. Again, Jasmine for U.S. and Representative Moskowitz grill Nashville Republican, former mayoral candidate and Vandal professor on her refusal to acknowledge certain hate groups are white supremacists. So this lady tried to frame the Proud Boys as white supremacists.
Neo-Nazis.
And neo-Nazis, she tried to frame them as. And so my thoughts on it, really, I don't see that at all. I think that this is completely a political, absolutely a political assassination of these groups.
Are the Proud Boys
I don't think this people is and this lady is definitely not fit to be running in Congress at all, in my opinion, also.
Supremacist organization, yes or no?
It depends on how you define it. I have a book.
Okay, never mind.
It depends on how you define it.
It's a yes or no. Proud Boys, how they define themselves.
Yes or no?
Are they white supremacists, yes or no?
I have not read a description of how they define themselves.
Okay, that's fine. Let's try another one. Neo-Nazis. Nazis is in their name. Neo-Nazis, Dr. Swain.
Is the question still about the Proud Boys?
Neo-Nazis.
Neo-Nazis.
We have moved on. Neo-Nazis.
Neo-Nazis.
God, so
are
vicious.
Hate groups, and I have a book, 2010.
Okay,
We can never let these kind of people. Like, she's just so rude, not even a professional.
Proud Boys are freaking white supremacists.
Proud Boys are freaking white supremacists.
Like, it's so childish. Like, why do we tolerate this? Like, this is not how a sitting person in Congress should be acting at all.
Neo-Nazis are too. And this president, who loves to coddle white supremacists, has decided
Not really. Trump's been completely against, like, anything close to that, really. I mean, again, I'm not a huge fan of Trump right now. I think he's done a lot of things wrong with this Iran war. But again, I mean, he pulled ICE out of Minneapolis. Okay, you can't call him a white supremacist when he is the reason that ICE got pulled out of Minneapolis. That was Trump's decision. Okay, Trump is the reason that we have not had a immigration moratorium. He's basically said that that's not going to happen. So for her to call Trump a white supremacist is just completely out of line, and it's just not true.
He should be given checks. Neo-Nazis as well as Proud Boys joined in on January 6th. Yet this slush fund that they keep talking about is specifically to give them money. This country still hasn't thought that reparations made sense for black folk in this country.
Oh, there we go again with reparations. You need reparations. You need free money handed to you. You need to live off the welfare system. You need to take money from American middle class workers and taxpayers. More handouts, more give me. Reparations for slavery. Okay, well, listen, everybody was a slave. I'm Irish. Did you know that my ancestors, not like my specific ancestors, but the Irish people were once slaves by themselves. They were just slaves in a different way. Did you know that the Italians were very much treated as slaves in this country when they came over? Because they were the ones building everything. All the buildings that you see in New York and New Jersey, pretty much built by Italians. And they were treated as slaves. Coal miners, all the Irish. Again, you had the Finnish who built a lot of the railroad tracks in the UP of Michigan and basically built all of the forestry and all of the navigated it, all of the stuff they were treated, all the coal mines that you see in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, built by Finnish people. Listen, they were treated as slaves. They were paid terribly, paid horribly. Everybody has been slaves. Everybody throughout history has a history with slavery. So for black people to say, oh, we were slaves, you owe us reparations, that's not true. And, ultimately, you need to work for what you have. And, all of this black privilege today, it's just unbelievable. You got Chud the Builder who's paying a $1.25 million bond for a word. And then you have people who, like the black man who killed Irina Zarutska, who was let off and had no charges pressed against him because he was unfit to stand trial. The double standards are ridiculous, and we're all tired of it, okay? So let's stop hearing it, Miss Crockett, about how we need to give you reparations.
But at the same time, they've decided that people
we're so voting these people out.
Absolutely white supremacy organizations should get our tax dollars because they decided to attempt to tear apart our democracy.
They're not white supremacists, though.
People on that side of the aisle claim that they love law and order. They either entered pleas of guilty or they were found guilty. We haven't had one hearing on white supremacy.
Yeah, because of congresswomen like you.
killing
Crockett.
of Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, the 9 worshipers who were murdered at the Mother Emanuel.
George Floyd was a drug addict. Breonna Taylor, she was caught in the crossfire of, like, seriously, in the drug house.
AME Church, the 23 people murdered in 2019 during the shooting at Walmart in El Paso, the 10 people murdered during the 2022 shooting at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York. All of these were murdered by white supremacists who were empowered
Oh, please.
by the Republican Party's racist rhetoric and policies. This is the same party
That's
that
so not
wants
true.
to drag us back to the Jim Crow era. Some of y'all need to read up on your
All of
history
these
books,
people
the very
trying to
same
divide
ones
us.
that the Republicans have decided that people should not hear about because you don't want real history taught in our schools.
No, because you people bitch and complain and you want everything handed to you when you are not entitled to free money. You should not get reparations. We gave you Black Lives Matter. You burned down churches with it, okay? We gave you money from Black Lives Matter. You burnt down churches with it. You burnt down society with it. It's not happening again. We gave you everything you wanted. We lowered the standards at universities for all of the different, tuitions. Listen, it's like we've given, everybody enough. Okay, we've built enough for everybody so that they can just take. It's just absolutely obscene.
Because you're afraid that it's going to hurt people's feelings to know that their ancestors were so savage that they would enslave black folk. You don't want them to...
Okay, so she's targeting white people for slaving the blacks. Don't forget, it was the Jews who brought the blacks over here. It was the Jews who created slavery. That is a fact. The Jews, look in the Jewish encyclopedia. There were so many, it was so Jewish that basically you would only have Jews showing up to buy slaves, and almost 80% of these slave trading issues, almost 90%, they were Jews. So it is the Jews who enslaved the black man, not the white man. The white Catholic was building your society so you could be elected in Congress, Miss Crockett. Miss Crockett, the reason that you are in Congress today is because you do not live in a racist country. The reason you are running for Congress is because the American people believed in you. The reason that Barack Obama was voted into presidency was because at the end of the day, America is not a racist country. We believe in ideas. We believe in people who have vision and foresight. And we believe that Obama had that at that time. Miss Crockett, we believed in you enough. We believed in Ilhan Omar, somebody from a completely different country who has no business really running for U.S. Congress. But we gave them all the opportunity in the world. And so you have all of this rhetoric of, you owe us, you owe us, you owe us. It's like, well, not really. Okay, ultimately, you do have a continent. You could go back to Africa if you wanted to and make it great. But you are choosing to live in our country, America, and you're acting like we owe you reparations? What are you talking about? We have lowered the entire criminal justice system standards and all of our law and order standards so that black people can go out, stab white girls in the neck, get away with it, and not do any crime. Meanwhile, some Chud the Builder guy says something that's remotely racist according to a black person when it's all about free speech. That was the whole artistry behind it. It was a free speech project, a live stream where he would say this on a live stream because it was the whole premise of it was to prove that black people are violent when you say one word, nigger. You say nigger in a context that is meant to, again, evoke a reaction. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's freedom of speech. It is the freedom of speech. That is the message of the live stream. And then you have all of these people who are saying, well, you owe us reparations. No, we don't. We don't owe you anything. We owe you nothing.
Understand that when they draw
She's
these
so mad
racist
about it.
lines and tell black folk that they shouldn't have representation in this country, that
Nobody said that. Nobody said that black people should not have representation. You said that, Miss Crockett.
it is against the Constitution.
I'm the
You want them to be
You don't know anything about the Constitution, Miss Crockett.
ignorant so that they can sit up here and be your
Time of the
token
gentle
for
lady
your
has
mission.
expired.
I thought it was actually an easy line of questioning. Ms. Swan, the neo-Nazis are a supremacist group, right? I know you talked about your book, but neo-Nazis are a supremacist group.
May I define a white supremacist? Because I did a Cambridge University Press book, and when I did my research,
I know, but Ms. Swan, the neo-Nazis are a supremacist group. They believe they're supreme, right?
Mr. Moskowitz. Again, he is Jewish.
That's why they wanted to put people in camps that they
Something to
believed
think
were
about.
not pure. This is not a trick question.
What are you talking about, Mr. Moskowitz? It was your ancestors who enslaved the black man, and then now you're going to act like, oh, it's the white people, it's the Proud Boys, a Christian group. They're not white supremacists. These people are lying directly to the camera for an agenda to basically destroy America and give black people money that they don't deserve, so that way they can go, again, tearing up our society. You're seeing all the teen takeovers today. I'm sorry, but it's true. That is absolutely happening. And again, I'm not a racist. I believe that every American should have a right to enjoy their Bill of Rights, every single constitutional right they absolutely are entitled to. You have a right to earn your success by merit, by goodwill, by your high achievements, and your high IQ. But if you are going to start asking white people to give you reparations because you want a handout, because you want to blame all of your misfortunes today on slavery, then, well, I got news for you. The Irish were slaves too, okay? Every race has been enslaved. Every race has been enslaved. The Europeans were enslaved by the Ottoman Empire for a long time, okay? Right now, the people of England are being enslaved by these Saudi Arabians right now. So I don't want to hear about slavery and how the white person is so bad when it is the Jews who started slavery. The Jews brought the African Americans over to this country. That is a fact.
Ms. Swan,
I would like to define a white supremacist, and when I did my research, it was white people who believed that because of their race, they were superior to other groups. But the left redefined white supremacists so that it could include any white person in this room,
Ms. Swan, that's hold on.
What about Jewish supremacy? They always want to talk about white supremacy, but we never talk about Jewish supremacy, even though it is the Jews who own OnlyFans. It is the Jews who are literally paying $16.3 million so Ed Gallerin can win his election in the GOP, thwarting the success of Thomas Massie. $16.3 million of Israeli AIPAC money. You talk about slavery. How about the white people being enslaved by the Jew in 2026, which is the real truth? And you want to talk about real slavery? Again, the black people have been enslaved by Jewish people ever since the beginning of this country, when blacks were taken over here by Jews on Jewish ships at Jewish slave trades, sold and controlled by Jews. Okay, so to say that white people are in charge of any of that and have anything to do with that, the most you can say is that our founding fathers and George Washington, they owned slaves. And guess what? Their slaves were well taken care of. If you actually read the book George Washington, if you read the actual testimonies of that time, black people were highly valued, and we lived together pretty well because we were actually in defiance of the British, who were trying to take all of our rights away at that time. But no, now it's about, because our country has become so docile and our country has become spoiled, we need something to attack, so we need to attack each other. And so all of this is meant to create a race war, and it should make every black person so infuriated, because what they're saying is that black people aren't good enough to raise their bar to success. Black people don't have the power to succeed because of the white man, and all of these victimization and struggle excuses. Bullshit. Black people have been able to make success because, they were independent. You have black athletes today that are getting $7.8 million contracts and higher, $80 million contracts. Ridiculous. So I don't want to hear about the black man being enslaved today. If anything, there's black supremacy today. If anything, I see black people and black kids that are beating the shit out of white kids in schools. I'm seeing this every day. And the only reason I don't play this on my live stream is because I don't want to get banned. But this is such a pertinent issue, and you need to understand, whether you're white or black, this is all designed to create a civil war, to distract you from the real enemy, which is the Zionists, who control the entire United States and every single race in this country, literally political races from cultural races. You have to understand your history, and these people do not understand the history.
That's a wonderful speech. Are neo-Nazis
He understands the history.
supremacists?
It depends on which ones.
Ms. Swan, listen, I'm not reading your book if you literally can't answer this question. Are neo-Nazis supremacists?
They're individuals. Some are, and some may be just plain old anti-Semites.
Neo-Nazis are anti-Semites, okay? We're going to agree there.
Right, okay.
But they're also supremacists, Ms. Swan.
Okay.
You don't have to take my word for it.
Look at him so mad about it. He just doesn't want the world to believe and understand that the Jew has been always the main reason that black people were slaves in this country. It's always been the Jews, black people. You thought it was us white people? Wrong. It was always the Jews. They controlled you from the beginning, and they've been putting you against the white people from the beginning. They have no respect for you. Did you read those Epstein files? Do you remember reading Jeffrey Epstein, who was Jewish? Do you remember what's in there? He literally hunted what he called niggers. He said this, Jeffrey Epstein, not Brendan Ecker. I did not say this. I'm saying that Jeffrey Epstein, if you read the Epstein files, they hunted black people. And it was a Jewish cabal. So do not blame the white man for slavery or any of this crap when the average white person and the Proud Boys is a Christian group. Yes, they are nationalists. They are proud of their heritage, but they have absolutely no intention to enslave anybody. And so to, talk like this and to bring back this conversation of reparations and all of this crap, really to basically discredit the black person. If I was black, I'd be completely offended by all of this. I'd say, like, dude, these people literally think we are idiots. They think that we are incapable of making our own success our way. And so they think that we need reparations because we can't do it ourselves. That is the most racist thing, actually, that these people could ever be like.
They are. That's the whole reason they exist.
And again,
But
he
you
is
all
Jewish
don't
himself.
believe They are supreme.
I would agree with you, but I suggest you all take the time.
That's why he's freaking out about this neo-Nazi issue, this entire neo-Nazi conversation. Mr. Makowitz is literally, he's freaking out because he believes that, again, the white man is a Nazi and that Nazism is built into every single white person. Unbelievable.
Read my Cambridge University press book
Listen,
that was nominated
Ms.
for a
Swan,
Pulitzer
listen,
Prize.
Dr. Swan, I can promise
He's
you
just
there's no
seething.
freaking way I'm buying your book. When it took 2 minutes for you to look at me and had to convince you.
Because I don't like the talking points. The left is
This is not a talking point.
Thank
this
you.
Is 100 years
Smart
of history.
black woman
Mr.
right there.
Are neo-Nazis
Smart genius.
supremacists?
They are supremacists.
Thank you, sir. Mr. O'Neill.
Yes.
Okay.
O'Neill. Yeah. Of course, they're just going to say it because they're making money.
Dr.
They're making
Swan,
money
that
off
wasn't a
of
trick question
this.
for them. I wasn't trying to trip them up. If we can't.
They don't want to get hounded. They don't want to lose their spot in Congress, so why would they ever speak the truth? She is just a professor
Agree
who's telling
on
the
a
truth.
simple set of facts, then we can't solve real problems.
That's so not true. So anyways, sorry to go on that rant, but that is meant to divide the masses. That is specifically meant to divide the American public and to create civil war conditions. And actually what we need to do as black Americans, as white Americans, we need to unite against the actual oppressor of this country, which is the modern day Zionists. Not all Jews, by the way. This is not all Jews. This is the Zionists today. This is the Netanyahu mentality. This is the mentality of the Greater Israel Project, the Kalergi Plan, the Great Replacement, where they want to integrate white and black communities so that way they can control their offspring. This is literally the plan of the Kalergi Plan. Google it. Look it up. It will tell you, oh, it's an anti-Semitic trope. Well, who controls Google? Who controls all of the algorithms? So let's just get in line with the facts. This is all leftist talking points. This is what they do. They want to create civil war. They want to divide the white Americans and the black Americans to basically distract you from the truth that you are being oppressed by these Zionists right now. Okay, on to the next story. So again, this is also a little bit divisive for Muslims right now. And the reason I'm going to play this is because I've been very observant of this issue. And as much as I have sympathy for the Arabic people, for what's happening in Israel today with the people of Palestine, absolutely believe that we should free Palestine, absolutely do believe that we should be able to have these conversations of being able to, come to some kind of conclusion on that. Yeah, there should be peace. Everybody has the right to human dignity in all of this, okay? But what I'm seeing on X when I go on here, and when I see it when I drive through Dearborn, Michigan, I'll tell you, this is a problem. And you should, I have been seeing the Muslims coming into our country, and they have been flocking, and they do seek to take over, in their own words, they want to take over, and they want to change the demographics. And you see it in the UK. The native European white people today have no rights. And then what do the Muslims say? Well, we're here to take over. It's like, well, that's not cool. It's like if you got a problem with the people who are oppressing you in Israel, which is the Jews and the Zionists, then by all means do what you have to do, I guess. I mean, I don't call for violence at all, by the way. But, I mean, it's like, why are you going after the white man? Why is the white man so targeted today when it is all these other problems and these really the Zionists who are creating this division? Okay. So again, this is a video of Jake Lane. He is Jewish, so something to think about here, something to look twice at. But at the same time, I am noticing a lot of what he's saying is coming to be true. Okay, you are seeing all of these communities changing, and these Muslims are absolutely trying to take over communities by building mosques and Muslim-only communities. And then when you have a white person who says, I want to build a white-only community, then you're just a racist as a white person. But if you're Arabic, you can just go and do that. You can build a Muslim-only community. You know, blacks can have a black-only community. Chinese can have Chinatown, Koreatown in New York, whatever. But you can't have a white-only community. Okay, so that's kind of interesting to me. But what's even more interesting is what Jake Lang said here, is because as much as I keep an eye on him because he is a Jew, he is not a Zionist, in my opinion. We'll see. Maybe. We're going to watch him throughout the next course of these couple years, and we'll watch him every single time. But what I think he's saying here is 100% true, and I've been seeing it on Twitter. So Muslims, you need to do better because this is creating this conversation. Your behavior, the violence coming into our country and trying to take over and trying to not assimilate to the Christian way, which is our religion, and you want to invoke jihad on the average Christian, that's just not acceptable at all.
Friscoistan, what are you guys doing here? Inviting the enemy to eat at the table with you and they steal all your food. Your children will grow up without a place to be in because every single one of their jobs, and you saw the children that were brought up on this stage, not one of them is a heritage American. Not one of them was a Texan. Your replacement is here, Americans, and it is coming faster and faster. The Hindus and the Muslims are teaming up to take over Texas. This is not Muslims versus Hindus here. They are here to eradicate the Christians. They are here to drive us out of our homelands. You have to understand, these people do not want to assimilate. These people have not come here to be...
Now, a year ago, I wouldn't have agreed with anything he's saying, but you do enough research and you see it all around Dearborn. If you live in these communities, if you're seeing it, you're seeing the way that they're taking over in government and all of these things. They're putting money into all these programs, DEI programs, whatever you want to call it, and they're living off of the welfare system. They're saying that they want to take over. Everything he's saying here is absolutely true and fact.
Become Americans. They've come here to drag their third world culture over to our country. If Jainism, if Hinduism is so great, why are their countries shitholes? They are bringing this ideology here to turn the third world is not a place. It is a people. It is an ideology. It is a way of life. It is a culture. And when they bring their people, their way of life, their ideology, and their culture over to America, do you think it's going to remain American? Have you ever looked across the plains of Texas and said, I need 5 million Jeets here right now to...
Okay, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the derogatory, racist words and all of that. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that kind of language, but what I do agree with is everything he is saying about the third world. The third world is coming into America today, and they are invading our country. They are invading our rights. All of these things are happening. They're being given all of these benefits and living off of the welfare system. All of this is absolutely a fact.
Shit in the street. No one ever has. No one has ever looked across and said the football fields, the games, all of the amazing cowboy. I have a First Amendment right, and I can curse if I want to.
Yes. Yes, you
I can talk if I want to. No one has ever looked
Your right
across
as an
the plains
American
of Texas and the football games and all the amazing cowboy culture and the raw American spirit here and said, let's replace this with Muslims. Let's replace this with Hindus. Texas should remain for Texans.
Facts. 100%.
Have you lost your mind selling your children's future? Did you see the Boys and Girls Club of America standing on this stage? Is it even recognizable to what you would have seen the Boy Scouts 15 or 20 years ago? It is a replacement. It is not right. Just because it's happening to white people does not make it okay. You guys are complicit. This is the jellyfish generation. Half boomer, half Gen X. You don't care about my children's children. You are selling out this country to people who do not want to live near you. They want to build their own separate, segregated zones where they practice their religion, their food, their way of dress, their language. They don't care about white culture. They don't care about American culture. They don't like you. They will replace you. Their culture in both Muslim and Hindu is pedophilia. And I have the child marriage in Mensur Marudi, which is one of their religious texts. It suggests a 30-year-old man marry a 12-year-old woman, or a 24-year-old man is perfect for an 8-year-old girl. What the fuck is wrong with you? Inviting 100%. These people into our country. This is a...
And again, I'm not a racist. I'm not. Just because I'm covering this issue does not mean that I am aligned with any kind of racism. What I believe in is America first. what I believe in is the country that I lived in 10, 20 years ago. And it is true. Everything he said about the boomers and the Gen X generation, how they have sold out their country for all of these illegal immigrants to come in here, and swarms and grow and just waves. And so it is causing a real problem for our country. Okay, the average American, the average middle-class American who works 3 jobs is not able to get by, cannot buy a house because of all these DEI programs that have been created specifically to benefit any kind of illegal immigrant that's coming in here, or immigrant in general who's using the system and prying off the system. You know, the Medicaid fraud that you see in Nick Shirley's videos. You see all of this. Watch Nick Shirley's YouTube channel. Okay, go and watch Tyler Oliveira's YouTube channel. You go and tell me what you see when he visits these societies. Again, he'll visit Portugal. It's completely overrun by Indians and these Sikh. It's literally called the Sikh, like the Sikh Indians. It's a specific tribe, a political group, the Sikh Indians. SIKH or something like that. But you're seeing all of this takeover happen. And then you see the videos where Tyler Oliveira goes to India and they're throwing poop at each other. It's the most dirty culture that you're seeing. And again, I don't mean that in a racist way, but that's just what I'm observing as an analyst, okay? And when we're bringing in all these illegal immigrants into our country, how is that fair to the average American, the middle class, you know, young Gen Z, the Zoomer who's actually working 3 jobs to try to get their own house, to have children, to get married? None of these things can happen when we have a melting pot of a country, quite literally the Kalergi plan, the Great Replacement. Whether or not you want to believe that's an anti-Semitic trope, is it not true? Is that not what you're seeing? That's what's happening. And so until people can rise up like Jake Lang, listen, I don't agree with everything he said. I don't agree with the racist, derogatory remarks. I don't. But at the end of the day, what I do agree with is the facts that, yes, they do want to build segregated communities from white people. That's happening. You don't see assimilation of Muslims coming into America or the UK. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing brutality. I'm seeing violence. There was just 2 months ago, I had seen some guy, some white man, had his head chopped. This is real. Like, he literally had his head chopped off by this Muslim who was an illegal invader. He was an illegal immigrant, but he was a Muslim. He was invoking jihad. And so it's like, this is a dangerous thing that we are allowing to happen. Really, we need to end Zionism in this country. And I don't say that because I don't say that as an anti-Semite. I'm not an anti-Semite. I'm a Catholic. I worship Jesus Christ, who was a Jew. Okay, I am not an anti-Semite, to make myself very clear for if this video is to ever get clipped in the future. I believe in America first. I believe in a Catholic country. I believe that Jesus Christ is king. And I believe that our country needs to go back to that foundation, because what other religion is there? We believe we all become Zionists. We all believe in the Holocaust that's happening in Palestine. We believe in selling out our country to Israel. And then on the same end of it, we believe in letting in all of the immigrants from Palestine come into our country. Listen, what we need to do as Americans is fight for the freedom, the human dignity of the Palestinian people, while also not bringing them all into our country because we feel guilty and, you know, responsible or whatever. No, we need to protect, for national security purposes, our identity as a country. This is common sense stuff. This is what Poland is doing. And look, they have no crime. They have no crime. You look at El Salvador. Guess what? They are a completely homogeneous society almost. They're almost fully El Salvadorians. Okay? Guess what? They got rid of a lot of their crime that you see today. So America can do the same thing. And if we are going to just allow everybody in here, what kind of message does that send? And what kind of environment does that leave when in the future, if enough of them came in here, if, you know, tens and tens and tens of millions of Muslims or Hindus or Indians came into America, that would change the entire demographics of this country. And next thing you know, we're not even a Christian country anymore. We don't believe in that. Everything you know about society today that's great, all the entertainment that you see, all of the beauty that you see, the clean, nice roads that you see, the beautiful trees, the landscaping, the churches, the small towns that just speak America, the baseball, the football, all of it. Like Jake Lang was saying, that cowboy culture in Texas, it all goes away when there's enough immigration to destroy a society, meaning that it destroys the society by changing the society into something it never was before. Okay, which might be a Muslim country, which might be a Hindu country. But you look at what their countries are like, and maybe there's a reason they're fleeing those countries. There's a reason they're not living there, making their country great, because it is far gone. It has not worked for their countries. Okay? And so ultimately, you can say whatever excuses you want, that white people are bad, that white people are the problem, that white supremacists are the issue. No, it's actually white people that are going to save the world, probably. It is going to be the white American who probably unifies the entire world and at the same time protects our own country with national security. That is what this is all about, personally. I think it's so important to go on, and it's so important to go on those kind of rants, okay? So again, I wanted to play this clip from Chud the Builder. We're really playing some controversial stuff tonight, but I did want to play this video. Chud the Builder meets two potential trad wives who value staying home and not working.
I always said pretty girls shouldn't be allowed to drive. We got a cameraman. Sorry, we're live. I'm over here clip farming you ladies.
But he makes a good point here. He talks about why he's doing what he's doing.
We're clip farming y'all. You're pretty, so I figured we'd come talk to you. Yeah, y'all live here? What, you just visiting?
Visiting for work.
For work?
Work/fun.
Bro, why do pretty girls have jobs? It's illegal.
True.
Yeah, I know.
When I become president, y'all are going to be stuck at home.
I feel like I want to have a conversation with whoever fought for women's rights.
What would your conversation say?
I want to ask why. Why do they want to go out and work instead of just like...
But y'all believe in free speech?
Oh boy.
Yeah, we're like
so this is what he does. Do you believe in free speech? He'll go up to somebody, whether they're black or whether they're even white. He'll say, do you believe in free speech? And they'll always say, yeah, I believe in free speech. And then he'll say the word, nigger. He'll say the controversial word that you're never supposed to say. And then they either flip out on him or they say, oh, yeah, I understand what you're doing.
Free speech movement.
I feel like, yeah.
Yeah?
This is free speech.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you think white people should be allowed to say nigger?
No.
Why not?
I mean...
That's a word.
The hard R is a little rough. It is a word.
Yeah, and it is all about the intent also. You don't just go up to random people saying like, hey, and you come out with this bad this bad approach, bad will, ill will. I don't believe in that. And Chud the Builder's kind of been a victim. He's been not a victim. He's definitely been an aggressor at times. He's done things that have not been perfect with that. But he makes a great point. You should be able to say a word without worrying about losing your life. And that is where I kind of stand behind Chud the Builder here.
But I can say
see
nigga.
what he's doing.
I mean, to the context. I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't personally
Well, you ladies are pretty girls that I don't want.
Yeah, you shouldn't just say it. You don't just, I really don't agree with that. Like, you don't just say it. But in the context of education, like on this YouTube channel, I'm saying it for the context of talking about it. And also displaying the example that you should be able to say the word nigger in the purposes of education and having the conversation of free speech and what people should and shouldn't be allowed to say. Shouldn't even exist. The freedom of speech, press, and religion is just that. Bad speech can be countered by better speech. Incorrect speech can be countered by correct speech. And I actually see what Chud the Builder is doing here. Again, personally, I would do it in a much different fashion. And I would do it in a much, much better fashion, probably. But ultimately, I do agree with what he's doing and saying.
Getting in a fight and having your faces all fucked up.
Right.
So y'all shouldn't say it unless a guy like me is near you. Then you can say what you want. But free speech is free speech, and we're trying to prove that no one should be killed for words. That's kind of the whole movement.
So true.
I think killing for saying it is a little excessive.
Right. Or threatening, or starving, or harassing.
Right. I think it goes both ways. Like, if you're gonna say it, they think it's disrespectful to them, and then...
And they also, but it's all, it's disrespectful to black people. But listen, why are they allowed to say that in their own music? Why are they allowed to say that in real, actual rap songs that hit tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people on YouTube videos just alone? Okay, you think about, they're calling each other this. So it's like, at what point are white people not allowed to say it? That's kind of weird. That's just so strange to me, and it's pure victimization to say that, white people should never be allowed to say it. I think that's totally wrong.
They try to kill you.
But yeah, that's the point. Like, disrespect equals death to black people.
Well,
and it's like, do we really want to live with things like that?
Well, we can't really do anything about it.
Yet, guys like me are doing things about it single-handedly. Well, now I got bro. He's my cameraman. But I've been out here.
Man never dies, though.
Exactly. That's why he's chilling. He's not even fucked up with it. But personally, I've been out here. They want to kill me, and it doesn't matter to me. Like, I still believe we should believe in free speech over everything.
Well, it is. We do have free speech.
Hell yeah. You think that? You think that? I got sent to jail for forwarding my calls to the guy doxing my number.
For forwarding? Wait.
He's blowing my phone up saying, why won't you respond to me? Why won't you respond? Why are you going to change your number? You can't handle the heat? I forward my calls to him. They take me to jail. Why? Because I'm the locally known guy that believes in free speech.
You're the crazy local?
Well, look me up, Chud the Builder.
What is it?
Chud the Builder. Like Bob,
But Chud.
but Chud. Well, I used to be like a contractor. I remodel houses and shit.
Okay.
And then they started canceling me, and they started, threatening my life and shooting at my house and shit.
Oh.
All because I'd put like white-owned business in my bio. And then, once they basically like got me ostracized from my whole city, I doubled down. I filmed a video of some lady in a Walmart fucking chimping out, and I said, look at her, she's chimping out. And I went viral as shit, and that was like 6 months ago, and they've only gotten worse and worse and worse, and I've doubled down harder and harder and harder.
So again, I'm not a racist myself. I'm not advocating for going up to black people and saying that. Obviously, you should expect that something bad is probably going to happen from that. That's common sense. But I think we also need to have that real understanding of the freedom of speech, the differences between a word and whether or not you deserve to lose your life because you say a word. Okay, that's unbelievable. Okay, and the fact that, again, Chud the Builder is facing a $1.25 million bond for an artistic experiment of freedom of speech, right? And then you have Irina Zarutska, who's getting stabbed in the neck by a black man, and then the black man is seen, oh, he's unfit for trial, gets no charges put on him at all. And you see it constantly, day in and day out. You have Carmelo Anthony, who stabbed that kid in the heart. And the video footage was so damning that they didn't even allow it to be on social media. But he raised $250,000 on a GoFundMe thing, ended up getting a house with it. Right now he's sitting free, no charges pressed at all. Nothing happened to him. Okay, so ultimately, it's unbelievable when you look at the double standards. And that is what I'm outlining here. It needs to be a real conversation. And if people aren't willing to talk about it, then you will never truly have a free First Amendment in your country, and you will never have the freedom of speech. You won't live in America because you won't be allowed to say certain things. Okay. And again, you shouldn't just go and say that to anybody. That's not what I believe in. That's not my morals. They're my beliefs as a Christian. But what I do believe in is the freedom of speech, and especially for an artistic experiment. And that's completely different than you're going up with real intent to actually murder somebody, and then that person gets away with it. Again, the guy who tried to shoot Chud the Builder, Chud the Builder was at a courthouse. This guy had already been texting him, said, I'm going to murder you and your kid, I think he said, and then walked up to Chud the Builder. It's basically ambushed him. And then Chud the Builder, in self-defense, shot at the man. He shot the man. And again, literally shot himself in the arm as well during the fight. And now the guy just basically gets off scot-free, and Chud the Builder has to face a $1.25 million bond in a grand jury trial. So it's kind of insane what we as Americans are allowing to happen to our freedom of speech when we're really allowing all of these little social dogmas to control it. And it's just not okay. It's not okay. America is a place of freedom, and ultimately what's going to unify the black and the white community is having an understanding of these issues, having an understanding of the intent behind what you're doing, and how that actually does make a difference. So this is Nayib Bukele. I love this guy. I see him as just a total messianic spirit. The next step is to go from being a safe country to becoming a true country of law and order. I think this man is amazing. I think this dude is a hero.
La primera, que es la más famosa,
the first and most famous is law enforcement. It's teaching you how to govern. The police and soldiers go and catch gang members. That's what everyone thinks of. But our country is beginning a new stage, and it will continue to gain strength as we transcend beyond our achievements in fighting crime. The level of violence in El Salvador is not normal in the country of law and order. Sure, people can walk down the street at any time of the day, even 3 a.m. down a dark alley, and they will be fine. This is a real achievement. Thanks to God and to your work. But that is just security. It's not law and order. Law and order requires other changes, and other levels we have yet to reach. Eliminating corruption, for example. It's the first thing he did. It's one thing not to get mugged in the street. It's something else to be free from corruption and to be free from fraud. I may not get to be mugged, but I can still get scammed. Or for there to be no more contraband. Many people in El Salvador felt it was a minor offense. It's just contraband. It's just a scam. I even remember when the people would arrest someone for petty theft, people used a phrase that was significant at the time. They'll only arrest thieves who steal chickens. That carried weight, and it made sense. Because there were 30 murders per day. And they wouldn't arrest any of those 30 murderers. Or even counting their accomplices, there might be 60 or even 90 killers each day. But they would only arrest the chicken thief. Just him. So people logically argued, they only arrest petty thieves. That's no longer the case. Now it's the opposite. When you look on social media, if someone steals a cell phone or a wallet, people are posting 3 Doritos later, asking, they say, okay, it's going a little fast, and they haven't caught the wallet thief. The police and elite unit get on the case and source the suspect, still wearing the same clothes. They caught him so fast he didn't have a chance to change his clothes. People no longer say, leave him alone, he just stole a cell phone. The same way they used to say, he just stole a chicken. People finally understood that our country has moved from just eliminating violent crime to a stage in which we'll eliminate all crimes and become a country of law and order. Not just a country where there are no more murders, thank God, where there is no more extortion, thank God, where there are no more rapes, thank God, but where there is still petty theft, there is still contraband, there is corruption. These are scams. There is environmental contamination done by individuals and companies. We're moving into a new stage in which our country must not just build the safest country, we're already the safest in the hemisphere. We must be the country with the most respect for law and order in this hemisphere. Think about that for a second. And in the future, one of the countries with the greatest respect for law and order in the world. Beautiful. This guy is Christ-like. To me, I see this man almost makes me want to cry because I see what El Salvador was. It was brutal. Okay, El Salvador used to be brutal. Crime everywhere. And now is like totally safe. And this is kind of funny as well. As a Brown, this is hilarious.
The races of Earth.
Andrew Tate with his little rant. But I always think this is good.
You got white people, which we all know. Europeans, used to be Europe. Americans, you got white people. They're around here.
Oh, Jesus.
Russians are white. You got white people.
Maybe I shouldn't have played this one, but
You got black
I think it's
people.
funny.
Most people don't know this, but they're from Africa. See all the blacks here. You got the Chinese. Last time I was in Korea, I was tired of them pretending they were not Chinese. You're all slanty-eyed. You're all fucking Chinese. Japan, Korea, you're all Chinese. Even Vietnam, Southeast Asian, you're Chinese. You don't speak English. You're over there. You're Chinese. You got Pakis. You know? India, Pakistan. And, like, you can be from Algeria, which is far away on a map. I'm not actually Pakistani. I'm from Tunisia. You're brown. You're speaking one of them weird languages. You're a fucking Paki. And then you got
Oh,
Mexicans.
this is not good.
Mexicans are anywhere
Just for
from
fun
Mexico
now.
down.
Just for
this
fun.
is all one big Mexico. I'm from Nicaragua. You're a fucking Mexican. Now, I heard Hondurans and like Nicaraguans and fucking Mexicans don't actually get along because they believe they're different. They're arguing about how they all make burritos in a different way, and they pretend it fucking matters. And they sit around going, no, actually, we're very different cultures. It's not a different culture. All your countries fucking suck. They're all shitholes.
Oh, come on,
All
Andrew
your
Tate.
women are whores. sniffing coke and drugging fucking passport bros. They've all got flat feet, look like housemaids, no manicure, no pedicure, shit flip-flops, a $3 dress, dancing to some fucking Mexican bullshit. It's all one big fucking Mexico. South America is Mexico. And I use this as a perfect explanation. If a man from Chile and a man from Paraguay and a man from Nicaragua and a man from Honduras, 4 of them started a criminal gang and they were breaking into your house and you called the police, you would say, 4 Mexicans are breaking into my house, because that's what they fucking are. It's all one big Mexico. It's only 5 races in the world, guys. Let's cut the bullshit. There are some weird ones, like what's an Eskimo? You know? But they're probably a mix. They might be like snow Mexicans.
I really should have just ended with
There's like Mexicans who made their way to the snow, but they're still Mexicans, okay? There's only 5 races in the world. The smartest race are the whites. The most organized race are the chinks. In fact, no, the whites are pretty organized too. But the chinks are very hardworking. And the strongest physical race are the blacks. You'll notice the Mexicans have nothing. Nothing. Come
on. Mexicans are hard workers.
Suck.
Very hard workers.
I am rich and could go anywhere. And you know where I never want to go? To anywhere in South Mexico. Fuck Chile. Fuck Venezuela. Fuck Nicaragua. Fuck Honduras. Fuck Mexico. Fuck Paraguay. Fuck all of it. No, I don't want to go there. Tacos, burritos. Bro, I got Doritos right here in my house. I'm in Romania. We've taken your best shit already. Cool Ranch. I got your shit,
Lord.
bro. I ain't going there.
It's all for fun. This is all for fun, and I had to play it just because I thought it was hilarious. I thought it's funny. Okay, so if you got a problem with it, then you're just woke. Ultimately, I'm not a racist. I don't agree with a lot of what he said. I think the Mexicans are very smart. Or, you know, I think the Mexicans are hard workers, and I think ultimately, you know, everybody, the Christians ultimately are the leading race. And I see the Christians as a real race. You know, the Christians need to be a race of people. That's what I think. Real Christians, real Catholics, that's the real war. And that's how we're all going to unite. There is no other way to unite without that. So we've gone a little over 2 hours today. Okay, we'll end with this one because this was weird. What's with this guy's mask? And if you know anything about the CIA, we've had masks. We've been using these on people since about the 50s, 60s. Pretty much had that figured out and mastered. That is really strange to me. Is that just a shadow? Is it a necklace? Or is it a mask? Definitely weird. Really weird. So that's the show. Do you think this guy was wearing a mask? Hopefully I didn't offend too many people on this show. Ultimately, the entire point of this episode was to outline different, more controversial conversations. You know, I did want to talk a little bit about race because I don't talk about some of the X algorithm and the things you're actually going to see on there. And ultimately, I wanted to break it down because what they're trying to do on social media is to create a civil war. And again, that's just my analysis of it. But what we really should be focused on is trying to end all wars. We need to be unified in information and open source intelligence in order to end these wars, to unify the races, however possible, by, in my opinion, Catholicism. I think that is the leading religion. I think that is the way to the truth, the light. I think that allows for every human being, no matter where you work, no matter where you live, to live in a place of dignity, to have a real future of humanity and transcendence. And any other religion, to me, just does not seem to work. You know, it seems like the Jewish religion today has been highly subverted by Zionism, which is a very, it appears to be, in my opinion, to be a very hostile religion. And any who are non-Jews are not really welcome into the club, right? So that doesn't really work. And then with the Muslims, as much as I have true compassion for what we're seeing in Palestine today, and I think it's wrong what the Israelis are doing over there. It's horrible. It's a true Holocaust. It's a true genocide. But at the same time, I think we also need to understand, you can't deny that what you're seeing with a lot of these Muslims coming into Europe and America, they're taking over, and they're doing it out of pure hatred. And it seems like they're only going after white people and Christians. And I think that's really crazy, because me as a Christian, I have no disrespect towards another religion's God. I don't have a respect towards Allah. I understand that Allah just means God in another language. Ultimately, I understand and can respect the Muslim religion because I understand that the Muslims and the Christians are closer together than the Christians and the Jews are, actually, if you really do the research. And so there's a lot of, history. There's a lot of history between wars and the Crusades and all of these things. But ultimately, I think Catholicism is the only way to the truth. And ultimately, their Quran even admits that. And so I think that the real religion is Catholicism and Jesus Christ. And if we can believe in Jesus Christ in this kind of future, then I think this is the way that we transcend to the next dimension. This is the way that we go to the next stratosphere, the next place in this universe, the next world. Ultimately, if we're ever going to move past the race wars and all of this, there needs to be forgiveness. There needs to be compassion. There does need to be a level of understanding for one another's religions, but at the same time, there also needs to be a real ability to have real conversations. There needs to be the ability to have the freedom of speech. You should be allowed to say whatever you want to say. Bad speech can be countered by better speech. Incorrect speech can be countered by correct speech. And so that is really my message here. And the reason I played a lot of these really controversial videos for any blacks watching, whites watching, Muslims watching, I think we need to have an understanding of who's really trying to oppress all of our countries and what the real truth is, ultimately. And I think the truth is Jesus Christ. And so it seems to me that that's the only way that there will ever be a future of peace. Seems to me that that's the only religion that calls for that calls for forgiveness, that calls for turning the other cheek, that also calls for an eye at times when it's necessary, and it calls for, again, true research. Being a Christian, being a Catholic, and not a Christian Zionist or a Presbyterian Christian, I'm talking about a Catholic-based Christian, I think that is the truth and the light, because it forces you to do research. It forces you to understand the histories. It forces you to have compassion for your fellow man. Not just kill them because they don't agree with your religion. No. It seems to me that the only peaceful religion seems to be Catholicism. And some people will say the Mormons, but the Mormons, that comes from Christianity. The Latter-day Saints, that is a Christian religion overall. I think ultimately we need to come back to Catholicism. That's my opinion on it. Ultimately, what do you think about the Iran war? Do you think we're going to end the war? Do you think we're going to keep going with this war? We've had a long episode tonight, but hopefully at the end of the day, hopefully we're able to come to some kind of unity. So I'll be back on Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be talking about the news and everything that is going to happen over this weekend. Going to be a big weekend, a lot of big news, and ultimately I have nothing else. If you want to support my businesses, be sure to click a link in the description below. You want to support me, definitely visit my Substack, also in the link in the description below. And ultimately, I have nothing else. Stay prudent, stay powerful, stay wealthy, and God bless. And stay safe, of course.